And that's the ball game.
And there's no better way to end it on a strikeout. Alex Cobb was masterful.
He only walks one and he strikes out four. He lets the defense work behind him, and the defense played very well. And the Giants get a shutout against this very potent offensive Cardinal team.
Very impressive start for Alex Cobb. Very impressive start to the season for Alex Cobb. In 5 games, he's 1-1, but he's got a 1.91 ERA with the 1.27 WHIP. He's letting the defense, as you heard Kife say, he's letting the defense play behind him. The defense is really good yesterday against the Cardinals and the Giants. What do you know? They won 3 straight after that dreadful road trip in Detroit and Miami. They come back home. They lose the first 2 games against the New York Mets at Oracle Park. I thought Friday night the lack of buzz was apparent. It was just depressing. Logan Webb rights the ship Saturday, gets his first win of the season. They get a big win on Sunday Night Baseball, 5-4 of the Mets. And then Alex Cobb with the shutout, backed by J.D. Davis, 3-run homer. Mitch Haniger made his debut. Austin Slater playing well to start the season since he's come back. Hey, what do you know? Got a little juice with the Giants right now. They'll play the Cardinals again tonight at 6:40. The game was flying by. I know Flemming was happy about that. He was able to get home, have a nice snack last night, and get ready for tonight against the Cardinals. Flemming, good morning, man. How you doing this week?
Trying to kill my diet of, no eating after a certain time. Yeah, terrible. I'm good. How are you guys?
I'm good. Hey, I'm on that diet too, Flemming. No eating after 6:30. Your boy's down about 17 pounds in the last 2.5 weeks. It's tough, though.
That's good. It's not really that much of a secret, but because all that does, and I'm in the same boat as you are, it's like, yeah, you eat less. Then what a shock. What a concept.
No doubt, man. Those seats get a little tight, Flip, so that's when you know you need to cut down on the pizzas or whatnot. But last night, let's start with Alex Cobb, man. Complete game shutout, 6 hits. That Cardinals lineup is good. I know Arenado wasn't in there. We'll see him probably tonight. He's a Giants killer. But Goldschmidt was still there. Gorman's having a great start to the season. Tyler O'Neill has a lot of power. Cobb looked good yesterday, man. Great start to the season for him.
Hey, you go back to the start of last year, because he's the guy, we talked about him in the offseason at the end of last season. Like, he was the guy last year who most got victimized by the lack of Giants defense. And it hid how good of a pitcher he was. It just, the numbers didn't show you how well Alex Cobb did for the Giants last year. He was really good, and he's off to that kind of start again. He's been, I know it sounds crazy to say it, but he's been one of the 10 best pitchers in the National League in the last 2 years, this year and the year prior. I think he got 18 ground ball outs last night. 18? Mm-hmm. That's 6 innings worth of ground ball outs alone. That's pretty remarkable against a good team. That sinker was awesome.
I also thought that, against the Mets, Logan Webb finally found himself. It was really nice to see him go 7 full innings, only gave up 2 runs. It just felt like he had that late life movement, and he was attacking down in the zone. I really liked what I saw against a stellar New York Mets roster.
Yeah, Mets lineup is so good, and he pitched great. And I know the results weren't there early, his first 4 starts, but I thought the stuff was as good as I've ever seen it from Logan. But the combination of velocity and movement those first 4 starts, and whether it's bad luck or he just made mistakes at the wrong time, and he dominated against the Marlins, and then against the guy you're trying to throw a slider to, and he threw the right pitch and just hung it, and Jorge Soler, he is good. He's strong, and he launched it, and it was that kind of start to the year for Logan. So you're right. He put it all together against the Mets, a game that the Giants really needed, and he acted like the guy who wants to be the leader of this team, I thought. He came out on the field with like a swagger and a confidence. It's what Logan has going on right now. Like, he has realized that, hey, this, in a lot of ways, is my team, and in some ways my franchise right now. And the body language and the performance is starting to match that out on the field.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And then, I couple that, everybody, they don't have any young guys. And Camilo Duvall's a big young guy, this is someone that I have really high hopes for. And I thought Sunday's outing was the template for him moving forward. Trusting the fastball, attacking people, and 1, 2, 3, boom, boom, boom. That was such a great outing on Sunday night. I'm really hoping he can build on that.
I told him yesterday it might have been the best I thought he'd ever thrown. He looked at me like,
wow.
Yeah, sure, whatever. He was like, yeah, thanks. but I did. I thought it was about as good as I've ever seen him. And I think we all knew it was going to be, we got fooled in spring training with Camilo because the pitch clock was not an issue for him at all. And the reason was his stuff was so good in spring training, as opposed to, a lot of guys are kind of working out the kinks or whatever. Camilo showed up throwing 102, but looking like regular season Camilo. And hitters had zero chance against him in the spring. And so it was just a breeze, and he didn't get pushed. He didn't get tested at all. And so the pitch clock thing, he really, we all kind of left spring training going, oh, he's going to be fine. I mean, Camilo was one of the slowest workers in the game last year. Not an issue. He's made the transition. Well, then we show up for opening day, and there's a little adversity, and the bullpen's a little farther away, and he's getting pitch clock violations before he even throws a pitch, and all of a sudden it was like, man, Camilo, who looks like he can't ever be rattled, looked a little rattled out there. So I think part of it is he's now just taken those few outings to get used to this new setup. And I think we all knew it was going to take a little bit of time. He looks like he's there now. And the other thing that I love is because the Giants were going to stay away from him last night. But before the game, he went into the office and said, I want to pitch today. I don't care if it's my third day in a row. I'm feeling good. If you need me, I'm ready. And they didn't need him, but I love that too from him. I think that he's starting to get the swagger of one of the best late inning guys in the game. He knows he's good, and that's a good quality to have in that role.
Dave Flemming here on the roast, as he is every single week on 95.7 The Game. Does a great job calling Giants games, of course. But he does it all: golf, college basketball, college football, you name it here. He'll have some thoughts on Warriors Kings in a second. But, J.D. Davis and Darren Ruff were the headliners in a 5-player deadline swap between the Giants and the Mets, of course. And, J.D. Davis, he'd been hurt. He didn't really get a shot with the Mets. Well, his start to the season, he's showing some power. The big 3-run blast yesterday to blow it open against the Cardinals. Goes 2 for 4. He's batting over 300. I mean, this guy needs at-bats here, and I'm liking the way this lineup is starting to take shape now with Slater and Haniger back in it. But you got to give some props to J.D. Davis. We'll get to Estrada in just a second, but J.D. Davis is really impressive me, Flem.
It looked a lot different last night, didn't it, with those other two guys in there?
Yep, deeper.
It just looked different, and that's putting Davis aside. Like Haniger and Slater back is a big deal. And Conforto and Peterson, I mean, they were without all four of those guys for 10 days or whatever it was. That was, I think maybe we didn't realize how much that was to try to overcome. They can maybe one or even two of them out at the same time, but four at the same time was rough. J.D. Davis, I've told this story on the air, and I didn't want to give away like any confidences, but Gabe Kapler said he had lunch with JD in the spring and just asked him, just to catch up and like have a little personal time, and asked him, okay, like what are your goals for the year? And JD looked him right in the eye and not kidding, not joking, said, I can be an MVP candidate and I can win a Gold Glove. And, I think to the outside world, those seem like really high goals for somebody who doesn't necessarily have the career track record to show that. And the MVP candidate remains to be seen, although he really is playing like one right now, which is crazy. The Gold Glove thing is, I have been astonished by how good his defense has been. Even last night, he made two really tough, good plays. I know the National League, we got lots of good defensive players in the National League at that position. The number one is Arenado, but I can't imagine Arenado's playing better than this guy over at third right now. Really exciting. I always loved him with the Mets. The guy just hits the ball hard. He's scary at the plate because it looks like a line drive is coming. When you throw a pitch to him, it just looks like he's going to hit it hard somewhere. And so if they've unlocked, and a lot of it is health, but if they've unlocked a little different level of performance from him, I think you're right. One of your points at the start there was this guy's their third baseman now, and I think he's basically that. Like, it's going to make it more complicated with some of those other players, including David Villar, but how do you take J.D. Davis out more than, once every couple weeks just to give him a rest day.
Yeah. And VR's struggling right now, and I don't know, maybe they bring up Casey Schmidt at some point soon. But I'm looking at the catching position right now. Perez on that 60-day IL. Joey Bart goes out with the groin injury, which stinks because it feels like he's trying to quietly turning the corner, Blake Sable's giving you some solid production here and there. I'm really worried about this catching spot here, Flem.
Yeah, you should be, only because, if even just a couple weeks ago they had Bart, Sable, Austin Wynns, Gary Sanchez, Roberto Perez all on the roster. And Perez is out for the year. Austin Wynns is playing for the Dodgers. Gary Sanchez is struggling in AAA, and Bart is hurt. So that shows you plan for contingencies and you build depth. Why do you do it for something like that? They've gone from like 5 viable options to 1.5 right now. We need Joey to be healthy because they are thinner than they were even just a couple weeks ago. If Bart's hurt, I would imagine that is probably Gary Sanchez's chance to, because it's coming up. We're coming up now soon on the deadline where he could opt out of his deal. So it's probably likely if Bart has to go on the injured list, which I don't know that that's a certainty, but if he did, then you'd get a look at Sanchez and maybe hope that, hey, this is a guy who's played in the big leagues for a long time, the minor leagues. He's treating it like spring training. Let's get him under the bright lights and the adrenaline of the big leagues, and maybe that'll unlock some better performance. We'll see. I mean, I think it probably deep down in the recesses of the organization probably accelerates the timeline for Patrick Bailey, who was a first-round pick a few years ago, hasn't played particularly well in the minor leagues until this year, and now he's off to a tremendous start this year, and he's a really good defensive player, and they like his defense, and maybe you just sort of say, all right, Patrick, we need you up to speed as fast as possible, because there's a chance that later in the year they might need him.
I love the schedule game here, Flem, especially in baseball. You could kind of get a litmus test on where you're at. And with Haniger back in the lineup, and Yastrzemski playing well, Tyra Estrada has had a great start to the season. You got the next day to get St. Louis, San Diego for the first time
in Mexico City.
In Mexico City.
2 games set.
And then 3 in Houston. So I was going to get there to Mexico City. How excited are you for that trip to Mexico City to see the Padres?
I am excited. I've never been. It's one of the world's great cities, and I've been to Mexico many times, but I've never been to Mexico City. So I'm really excited to see it. Apparently, the ballpark is just gorgeous. Like it's a maybe 3 or 4 year old, 25,000 seat, modern style architecture baseball stadium. Maybe not right in the heart of the city, but in the city itself. It's supposed to be really a cool place to watch a game. So I can't wait to go down there and have a day to explore the city and bring that Giants orange and black to a place that does love baseball. Romo's coming with us. A lot of people from the organization are coming down.
Cool.
I think the Giants are we're bringing 2 planes worth of people down there, between ownership and front office folks and players and families. So they're really actually, the Padres, I've heard, now I don't know if this is actually true, but I've heard the Padres are treating this more like it's 2 games, get in, get out. And the Giants are treating it like this is a big deal for us. This is a chance for us to play in front of maybe some new Giants fans.
Yeah.
And I like that. I mean, if you're going to do all this international stuff, treat it like that to me.
Totally agree. I think this is great. I think it's going to be absolutely awesome. Like when you see like the Cardinals versus the Niners have gone back and forth to Mexico City for many, many years. Now other teams are sprinkled in there. But I think this is going to be absolutely awesome. And it's cool. You get to see Fernando Tatis, who's obviously just returned. And like you were talking about Camilo Duvall and the pitch clock. Now we're hearing from Juan Soto that the pitch clock has like ruined him, where he doesn't have enough time to get set and get ready in the box. He's batting less than 160 since being acquired by the Padres. I don't know. There's just a lot there with this Padre team. And the Juan Soto thing, he's really the first player that I've seen on the hitting side complain about the pitch clock.
Yeah, I think there are others. I do think my impression going into this whole thing was this is really going to be harder on the pitchers. And now that I've watched it play out, I think if a pitcher is throwing the ball well, it's harder on the hitters. And I didn't expect that. I think that's almost like an unintended consequence of this new rule. So I don't think he's alone, although you might be right that he's alone, that he's sort of voicing that opinion.
Well, he wants $400 million too, so he's trying to come up with
He's messing with his money.
And I guarantee you that is a factor of what's going on with that team right now.
You think?
He's looking around the room. Everybody else has gotten their big contract. Everybody, pitchers, Machado, Bogarts gets his new massive deal. They've handed out contracts to everybody. Cronenworth,
yeah, I was just going to say. Yeah.
I like Cronenworth.
Me too. And all those players you can totally justify. Musgrove and Darvish and all of them. And he's looking around going, I'm the one who's left out. And he's putting a lot of pressure on himself to perform. And he's looking at that number every day that you just cited. And it's weighing on him. And I don't think, he doesn't like hitting second. It makes sense in their lineup. Tatis and Machado sort of sandwich him there. Bogarts hits fourth. If I were Bob Melvin, that's how I'd be doing it. Yeah. But he doesn't like it. And he said that openly, too. He'd rather hit third or fourth. And so I think he's feeling a little picked on right now. Like, I'm not the big deal around here, and I want to be the big deal. And when you're young and cocky and talented, I think that stuff can start to mess with you a little bit. So we'll see where it goes with their team. I think the manager there has his hands full with all the egos and the stars on that team. Sometimes it's not fantasy baseball. Sometimes, those kind of things matter a little bit more than we let on. We'll see.
We're up against it, but any thoughts on Madison Bumgarner, who was DFA'd this week? Obviously a legend in Giants lore. Maybe he reunites with the Rangers or anything. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on Bumgarner?
Well, I don't think he's done. I don't think I heard. I do think that he is interested still in trying to get this going again. I think he's hurt the way that it's played out down there. I think I told you guys last year when we were in Arizona and I spent some time with him. I bumped into him in the back hall. I wanted to go say hi to him anyway, and then I just ran into him. And I talked to him for a long time, like 20 minutes. And he was totally, it was really interesting because Mad Bum he's like the ultimate alpha male. And, and he just opened his heart up like, man, I guess I just never knew how good I had it up there. And I really am appreciating all the stuff that everybody up there did for me and how fun it was to play in front of those fans. And he really was sort of wistful about his time with the Giants because it didn't end probably the way that everybody wanted it to end. So anyway, that's a long way of saying I don't think he's happy with the way this is played out there. And I think he'd like to try to see if somebody else, another organization, coach, whatever, can help him. I hope he can do it. I hope he can get one more sort of he's had an unbelievable career. He's going to be an all-time Giants great forever, no matter what happens. But if he wants to, I hope he gets another shot.
Yeah, no doubt. I know Shasky and Lutman, they're saying Texas. I just don't see him pitching in the American League right now. Maybe he's got to be an NL team, but we'll see about that. Real quick, I got to get your thoughts on Warriors Kings. Most watched first round playoff game in 21 years between the Kings and Warriors, and it was a doozy, Flem. I know you're getting ready for Giants and Mets, but boy, what a game 4 was. What's your thoughts on the series so far?
Yeah, we had it on. It was a great game. And it's funny because I don't know, you guys are probably reading the same stuff I'm reading, where columnists and pundits, or you put on the, first take shows or whatever, and you're the first round stinks and all the stars aren't playing. And there's some of that. I can see why some people feel that way. But gosh, this series has been unbelievably great. And the Kings should feel really proud about, for a group that's basically there for the first time, almost every single one of them, the way that they've performed. They almost stole that game. Good Lord, if they had won that game the other day.
Oh, man. Harrison Barnes had a chance to end the dynasty. How crazy would that have been? Harrison really Barnes.
Pretty good look. Yeah, there would have been some poetry in that for him, I'm sure. I think the Warriors are going to win the series now, but I don't think it's a done deal. The Kings are feisty, and they're a lot tougher than they play this up and down tempo, and so everybody just assumes they're soft. I don't watch them and think they're real soft. I think they've played really tough. I can't wait to watch this Game 5, and I give the Kings a lot of credit because they could have been overwhelmed. But the Warriors have played well, I think. I mean, I'm looking at Steph and Clay making shots, and Looney the way he's playing, and even with the Draymond stuff, I'm thinking the Warriors didn't. They showed up in this series, and the Kings still are fighting them hard.
No doubt. Flem, have a good call tonight. We'll talk to you next week when you get back from Mexico. No, you guys, actually, that's this weekend, right? Yeah, that's this weekend. Yeah, this weekend. You got the Cardinals 3 more. Yeah, you got Friday off. You get a rare Friday off. You got the Saturday, Sunday in Mexico City, and then the Houston Astros, the defending champs. Go say hi to Dusty Baker for all of us.
I'll say hi to Dusty. I'll buy him some, sort of like custom toothpicks in Mexico City. Maybe see if I can bring him a gift.
There you go. Flynn, take care, man. Thanks for being so kind with your time.
Talk to you guys soon.
Anytime. Dave Flemming here on the Morning Roast. We do it once a week. So people, man, you guys talk a lot. Hey, man, Flynn's our guy. We're going to give him all the time he needs here on the Morning Roast, talking about the Giants and, of course, other